Hello, this is Karen Johnson with yet another of our Proctors historical tapes where we're trying to preserve the history of Proctors Theater for all to enjoy because all have really been part of it in this area. The date today is August 28th, 2015, and I'm very pleased that we have as our guest today Larry Feldman, who has a lot of great stories to tell us. And Larry, tell us first a little bit about how you got involved with Proctors.
Well, I got involved in Proctors really as a little tyke because I'm born and raised in Schenectady, been here all my life, and attended movie theater productions, back as a little guy. But as Proctors started to make its comeback, almost miraculously avoiding the wrecking ball. It was through my friendship with Dennis Madden that as Denny went along, I tried to encourage and help his endeavors, and so that was my early Proctors beginning. Yep.
So you were a person that was interested in sports. You came from a family that was very well known in the sports world. How did they tilt you over toward the arts? Was that?
Yeah, that's a good question because sports has always been in my blood, and I grew up playing basketball and tennis here, and college soccer and tennis, and came back, got involved with hockey, and was a judge in Albany for the pro teams, and it's just I can't get away from sports, and to this day I'm still involved in basketball sports in many ways. So most of my friends didn't get involved in the arts. In fact, I'm the anomaly that got into skiing, and all my basketball buddies don't know what a ski looks like. So I think it's my wife, when I met her in college, and she got involved in theater productions in college, and her love for the arts kind of washed over me, and then my friendship with Dennis. So yeah, I got committed to the arts. I was the chairman of the arts panel for the Capital District, where we re-granted money throughout Troy, Schenectady, Albany, which was a huge awakening for me. Back in the 70s, the parochialism that existed, nobody crossed lines from Schenectady to Albany or Troy to Schenectady. And as the chairman, of course it took a few years before I became chairman of the panel, it was like, how do we have so much enrichment in the arts in this area, and how do we get people to go over the county lines? And then I got appointed to the LIFT panel, which on the county legislature you're well aware of, and we re-granted money to artists and arts organizations and arts projects in Schenectady County. So yeah, and it broadened my perspective being on these panels as to how much exists in the area and what different art forms that we have.
So we also should mention that meanwhile you had a very active career as an insurance person, as president of CFK Life Plans, and I know that you were, through that, a big supporter financially of the theater when the coffers were kind of low.
Yeah, through CFK, and then I have a brother-sister relationship with Cool Insuring Agency, and they got involved and been continual supporters from day one of the theater. And of course, today Tony Mashuda, the president of Cool, is the chairman of the board, does a wonderful job. And actually, I had a huge challenge because an opportunity when the theater was about to open, it needed insurance. And so I was given the challenge to come up with insurance. And I say that because the roof leaked, the infrastructure was in disrepair, the furnace didn't work, the cushions, the springs were popping through the cushions. So from an insurance risk standpoint, this house was a disaster waiting to happen. And Cool was able to come up with a comprehensive and economical package for insurance. So the show would open. You couldn't have an opening if you didn't have insurance for your liability and other concerns.
I've been just amazed when people recount the early condition of the theater, because it's, we're still fixing it today. I mean,
Right.
we're doing the last painting in the theater itself, the repainting, the fixing up the scagliola, but it's been a long, long process. And we never had, like 20 or 30 million to just fix everything. So
It's amazing.
we appreciate that people stuck with us over all this time. You're quite a pro-Schenectady person as well. I mean, you mentioned that you'd been involved with MVP Healthcare, you had all the local arts activity. You're a pretty good community citizen, and I guess we were lucky to have you because of that.
It was just wonderful growing up here and being a part of it. And
Now,
seeing-
like Pat Riley, did you ever sneak into the movie theaters?
No, I can't say I ever snuck into the movie theater, but a year ago when Pat came to town for the banquet that they have to honor sports athletes from Schenectady, I remember walking in late and I parked the car, and as I was walking in, I see this black Cadillac coming down the back stretch in the theater, and I'm thinking, that driver, my God, where does he think he's going? You're not supposed to drive through here. And as I got almost to the entrance, car stopped, and out the back door came Pat. So he had just come in from Connecticut to make the banquet that night. He's so community-minded. His heart has never left Schenectady.
That's great, because he tells the story of breaking in. This is nothing I attribute to anything I know except what he said during one of his talks. He says,
Well,
I'd open the door and let all my friends into the movies.
Truth be told, Billy Curvin and I snuck into Union College to play basketball, not in the new arena, but the old alumni gym. On a Sunday, we went up through the transom, and we got caught, and we thought we were going to go to the pokey.
Well, we're glad that you didn't. So because of this relationship with Proctors, you had an opportunity to have experiences that perhaps others didn't. And so you came to us and told us you had a bunch of great stories you wanted to tell, and we're very anxious to hear them.
People think that Blackstone was the opening of Proctors for performance as its regeneration. In fact, it was a year earlier that Dennis had put together a show to see if there was any interest in bringing people back to the theater. And it was an amateur night, and it was by donation. Might have even had a fishbowl to collect the money. So I brought my son Jim down. Jim was 10 years old, and we came down. We sat in the front row to the left of center stage. And I counted the people, and there were less than 50 people in the audience. I thought, this isn't too good. On top of that, there was this odor. It was actually a urine smell from the vagrants who had occupied the theater and its environs, because no one else was coming in, and they were getting shelter. So there was this smell of urine in the area. In fact, there was a vagrant snoozing not too far away from us.
The bad old days.
Yeah. So the show starts. I can only recall one act, not because it would have qualified for America's Got Talent. Out came this young man, juggler, directly in front of Jimmy and I. And he does a couple of shticks. And then he reaches down and he takes out 2 kerosene-soaked batons. And he lights them. And I immediately, the insurance agent in my brain clicks in, and I turn to my son and I said, Jimmy, get ready to run. He lights the batons and flips them, and lo and behold, the curtain catches on fire in 3 spots.
Oh,
Now,
my word.
why it didn't go up in flames, maybe 50 years of dirt on that curtain kept it from going up in flames. But somebody came running out from backstage with a fire extinguisher and put out the flames.
That's like The Hook in a way, isn't it? Get the performer off the stage.
Oh, God, he was history at that point. And you know, we can laugh about it now, but if you think about it, my God, if that curtain had gone up in flames, who knows what else could have gone. But just that massive curtain, if it had been destroyed, and we had no money in the coffers, you can't have a theater without a curtain. And it would have been impossible to have replaced it at that moment in time. So again,
a hair-raising story.
A hair-raising story, yeah, yeah. And then from that, we again got involved with Proctors and trying to bring it back. And so as it's getting closer and closer to opening, some work had to be done in the balcony. Inside the balcony, in the front of the balcony, wire had to be laid and put in place. And the space was very, very small. And so my son, Jimmy, is now almost 12 years old. He was a thin, wiry guy. And they needed somebody to get into that space. And he volunteered. Not like his old man. I'm not going where those spiders and mice and whatever else might be.
You don't know.
Or you don't know. And they were also concerned about somebody stepping through the ceiling over, the seats over the balcony. So Jimmy took the job.
Was this in the plenum over the roof, or?
So if you're sitting in the balcony, this would be under your seats in the
Okay.
balcony. You know where they have the lights strung in front of the balcony. Well, they were laying wire to do the lighting as well as to connect speakers. And so that's the purpose why
So
he
they
was
were
in there.
trying to get somebody to feed wires through.
Yep. And it sparked something in Jimmy. He wanted to know now what's going on and how the system's going to work. And by the time he's 18 years old, he becomes a roadie. He's on the road with the likes of John Cougar Mellencamp and Patti LaBelle. And it was just, that led to a lifelong interest in our son. He worked at City Hall when he was a youngster doing the taping for the city council meetings. He worked at OTB as a 15-year-old doing, it was amazing to see him down in that room all by himself practically, and all these dials and TVs and everything. And it was just the spark of Genesis. I have to be thankful to Proctors for that. Now he owns his own sound equipment. So he's an executive vice president for a fire and safety equipment company out in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. But people seek him out there to do sound projects.
So he's has dual roles in the community.
Yes, he does.
That's
yeah,
great.
He's very active.
So that's the amateur night story?
That was the amateur night story.
Okay,
Yep.
so now we're moving on to Marcel Marceau.
Marcel Marceau. Yep. Marcel Marceau. Are we taping? Or we're going to show?
Yes, keep going.
Okay, so Marcel Marceau, and there's a poster here of his show coming to Proctors, this world famous mime. Absolutely world famous. Proctors gets Marcel Marceau. And my wife and I, Nancy and I, were coming down to the performance, but we had seen Marcel Marceau 14 years earlier, I think 1964, in Paris, France. There was a small opera house called the Renaissance, de la Renaissance. It grew out of the ashes of the French Revolution. It survived World War II, and it was this 600-seat opera house. And we went to this performance, and he played Don Juan in the performance. I saved the program.
From
Brought
Paris.
the program from Paris. So here was the program from Paris. And the night of the day of the performance here in Proctors, I thought, gosh, we have that program. Maybe I can get it and have Marcel Marceau sign it. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So we bring it down. After the show, Dennis's administrative assistant, Clarence Mosher's wife, Jackie, I went up to Clarence and I said, Clarence, would you do me a favor? Would you ask Marcel if he would sign our program for us? This goes back to Paris when we saw him years ago in 1964. And he said, well, no, you do it. Why don't you do it? And I said, I don't want to, you do it if you would for me, please. I don't want to bother him. All right, I'll do it. Well, the look on Clarence's face was priceless when he came back with the program. And he said, I told you you should have done it. And I said, why? What happened? He said there was a line of people with their Proctors programs, and they would come in the line and he would sign it, and he obviously never spoke a word, signed, spoke. And he said, I walked up to him with your program, and I said, friends of mine asked me if you would sign this program because they saw you in Paris. And he said, I remember this well. Affectionately, this was a beautiful time for me. So he spoke.
Yes, the only person that heard him speak.
Only person that heard him speak was Clarence. And then he signed it, and then he had this caricature of himself in this program. It's actually Don Juan. And so on this caricature of himself, he signed it, and he said, to Nancy, what memories this brings back. Best wishes from Bip. Now, Bip was his signature character, and he called Bip the little brother to Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was the huge influence on Marcel to become this world-famous mime. And so it was the clown character Bip, and he signed it from Bip. And then Bip had this flower, this long top hat and this flower, and he did the flower caricature. And then Marcel, 1981.
What a great story.
Oh my God. You know,
Show it to the camera.
I have regrets but few in life. Not taking this program back that night is one of them. Yeah.
You know, it is interesting. People like to meet celebrities, but when they get right near them, they don't always know what to say to them. So I've watched that a lot, but that was a wonderful story.
Yeah. Unbelievable and unforgettable.
That's great. That's like a lifetime wonderful memory.
Yeah, and I'm glad to share it with the world because knowing how special it was to him, and he actually came out of character and spoke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well, he showed he's really a real person, which
yeah.
most of our actors are.
And now it comes back because obviously I shared the story with Dennis Madden, and Dennis says, you know, he didn't speak until we were leaving the theater. And he said, as we came out to come out of the theater to take him back to his hotel, he stopped and he said, you have a beautiful theater.
That's great.
Yep.
And that was when there were a few things missing yet.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, tell us about Jay Leno. And
Jay Leno. Jay brought the house down before the show started.
Bye.
Dennis was doing a promotion, and it was going to be like a dance marathon. It was going to be an all-night affair. It was going to be across the street at City Center. He had Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship as a lead act. And so he said to Jay, I'm doing this promotion in a month. Do you mind if I go out before the show starts and do a promotion? And Leno said, sure, go ahead. So Dennis comes out, he's standing center stage, and he starts to talk about the marathon. Jay Leno pokes his head out through the curtain, and he goes, you just want to crack up, but you got, and then as Dennis is talking, Leno starts to mimic Dennis. And you want to laugh, and then Jay would do this again. So that happened about 3 or 4 times. He'd have to shush you. And then finally Dennis, and I can see Dennis like shuffle, and I think I almost saw the sweat on his brow. And finally Dennis looks over his shoulder. Now the house erupts. I mean, the laughter was just incredibly loud. And to Dennis's credit, he came out with one of the quickest, funniest lines I ever heard. And he says to Jay, hey, I don't get in the middle of your Doritos commercials. Don't get in the middle of mine. I thought that was a great line. Well, now I can't wait to see Dennis until after the show's over. So, Denny, when you were up there, what did you think was going through your mind? He said, Larry, he said, you know, I'm talking and I can tell by the reactions on some people's faces, they're not reacting to what I'm saying. And he said, Larry, I'm standing there in front of 2,600 people thinking, oh my God, my fly is open.
Something terrible
Yeah.
has happened.
And there's nothing he could do to change that. Yeah.
But Jay was apparently doing this in good fun, and I'll
Oh.
bet you Dennis's commercial got more attention this way.
It could be. Yeah.
That's
So
wonderful.
that was a
Now
funny
you-
story.
Great, and the Kingston Trio came to town.
Kingston Trio came to town with the association and the Limelighters, and they do this performance. And then after the performance, there was a social upstairs. The Mohawk Valley Chorus was here that night, and they were having the social upstairs in the balcony area, behind the balcony. And there was a little bar set up, and it didn't take long before song broke out between or with the chorus and the entertainers. And then at one point, a few of the entertainers gathered under that little dome, if you can picture it, because you come up the stairs and then you got the men's room directly in front of you, and to the left you go, just before you go to the entrance to the theater, there's this little dome.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of the entertainers, the Kingston Trio, are standing under the dome and they start to sing, and the room goes silent. And it's a hair-raising thing again for me, because the sound quality under that dome was amazing. And people just stood in amazement to hear it. And I'm told if the theater is like empty and quiet, if you whisper under that dome, the whisper like has its own effect. It carries, and that can't be replicated.
So have you gone up there and tried it yourself?
No, I haven't. I've never had an opportunity to try that. In fact, Dennis has said that when the Chieftains come to Proctors and perform, and they do socials up there where they like to swap a pint or two, they love to gather under that dome. It's mesmerizing.
So the musicians kind of understand what's going to happen. I've been in it, and I've started talking to someone. I've been amazed how your voice carries out of it.
Yeah.
It's fun. Now, people should also come and look at it, because we've just repainted the mezzanine, and it's, you know, even when Proctors started, it was pretty simple the way it was decorated, and now we're jazzed up quite a bit, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And if people have never been in, well, the history room is right near there also.
Yes.
So
Steps away.
they can test their voices, and then they can go see the history committee's exhibits and talk to people about tours and learn more about the past of Proctors.
It's looking. The house is so beautiful today. It's just. I can't wait for the season to start.
But you have to. Well, Larry, is there anything else we haven't covered that you'd like to chat about?
No, you know, it's a great. I have so many memories, but those are highlights to me that I'd love to share. I thank you for the opportunity.
Well, we appreciate your taking the time, because we would like everybody who has any experience in the past of Proctors to feel welcome to participate in this series, because it's really how a community came together and took something that was in very serious disrepair and turned it into really a real asset for the whole capital region. So it's a very exciting place to be, and it's exciting to think of how far we've come. So thank you for being here today, and I'd just like to thank our viewers. This is another edition of the Proctors History Videotapings, an oral history project. And so because of it being an oral history project, we want to let you know that this is being taped on August 28th, 2015. And please watch this and all our other historical interviews. And thank you again, Larry.
You're welcome.